Great. So a couple of things, y'all. I know you're looking at our NEC website right now, just letting you know. We do have some things coming up under the shop. Well, yes, there you go. What's new? We've got some allowable cost services coming up. We've got professional development with SSS, talent search, upward bound. We also have on-demand courses for later on. You'll see when you look at our website for EOC as well, which we probably should maybe put that on there, Donna, somewhere there, the on-demand course. And also, EOC folks, let us know if you'd like us to do a live webinar, one day session. If you're interested in that, we can go ahead and promote that and advertise that, find a time and date for that as well. Then we've got our proposal writing workshops that are coming up. I think it'll be maybe a couple of weeks before we go ahead and announce those. And those are the ones that you can do online. There'll be the recordings and also questions after each one to kind of force y'all to go through the recording and ask for your feedback on it, learning wise, and then you can go on to the next one. And therefore, and then you can always go back to the recordings, has a link to the Google Drive. So those will be updated as soon as we have any new information, definitely when they come up. So yes, a live webinar for EOC. Thanks. Okay. For letting us know. So we'll put that on the to-do list to talk about when we can do that. So remember that the proposal writing workshops are unallowable costs, but the other professional development workshops, like that live webinar for EOC professional development, that is an allowable cost. Okay. So check us out in the the shop. And also we have groups. If you could share the groups, Donna, that would be great. And this is where you can join our group. We've got some free groups here, general trio questions, also questions about the APR or, about the programs. Actually, we do have groups for EOC and Talent Search. But for those of you that have attended one of our grant writing workshops, or if you're currently a client of NEC and the technical review or development of your workshops, y'all can be part of that closed group that's for the Talent Search competition and the EOC competition, and that's where we'll be sharing additional information. So it's an added benefit. But the free ones, right, Donna, are the general trio one and the general APR question ones. Those are free, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So join those, and Donna or Leah will be putting a link in the chat. So if you haven't already joined the free ones, and if you are an NAC client or if you've attended at least one of our grant writing workshops, you should have received an invitation inviting you to be part of that. And I promise we're going to start pretty soon after I get these SSS results and can study them, posting some additional information there about what y'all should be on the lookout for or to focus on. Okay. So question, requesting where SSS scores can be obtained. The SSS scores will come from the department. They should go to whoever the principal investigator is at the college, and or the president, and also the director usually. Teresa, do you remember when you were, I know you just left being a director, but would you get the scores as the director the last time around? Do you remember?
Yes, I got the scores. You would have to go to the where you go get your GAN. They would send
Oh,
the information. If I'm not mistaken, the last because it was during the pandemic,
okay.
around that time. But it was basically it's like you get where you get your GAN. They would send you a notification, and then you could go and pull it from that same space where you pull the GAN.
Oh, oh, good to know. Good to know. I was still remembering when I was a director and they would email you your letter of congratulations and say, here's the attached reader scores. But it looks like you are informed that you can go to the system yourself and download them.
I'm pretty confident that's what
Okay.
happened last. Yeah, it was new. It was something new. Yeah.
Jessica also says in 2021, I got the scores as director for our successful proposal and congrats letter, and it was emailed to her. So,
Okay.
so it could be a
Great.
combination
Okay.
of stuff. But you know what, Teresa, it makes sense that they say, "Hey, you've been awarded. Go into your portal and download it yourself." Right?
Yeah.
That's what I would tell
Oh,
people.
remember, I wrote SSS and I wrote Upward Bound. So
Mm,
I do
it might
remember
be a little different.
before, but it just seemed like that last time with Upward Bound, it seemed like I had to go get it, go find it because they sent me a notification. But I could be wrong, but they did send it to me as a director.
Okay, great. Good to know. And then so it could be a combination, but I don't think anyone yet out there, Jessica, you haven't received your scores yet, right? Not yet. And if I remember correctly, it usually is maybe a week later that you might receive those or longer. Their push is to go ahead and get the scores out for those folks that are in on the funding list or did not get funded. It's almost like no news is good news in regards to your scores, is what I've seen in the past. That if you did not get funded, then there was a push to get the scores out to you so you could see. Yes, so you could see what you received, where you lost points, so you could appeal. So that's the urgency. So if y'all got funded or know of anyone that got funded on that first list, then they might sit for a minute waiting for those scores. And yes, me and you both, Jessica, I'm anxiously awaiting all those scores on the feedback exactly to use the comments for the talent search proposal, and you should be. And those of you that have, access to, or you're the director of SSS, or you have a good friend that's an SSS director or colleague, please, y'all should do some sort of a regional or state kind of deal where you ask the SSS directors if they can share where, they lost points or what the readers liked, what they didn't like. This time around, I don't think, and I'm just speculating, Teresa, but I didn't see any new grants. We wrote 4 new grants, and none of those were listed on this first list. So, and I've been looking and, keeping, creeping on Facebook there. And I don't think there are any new proposals on the funding slate. Teresa, I don't know if you've heard anything or from anyone else.
Let me confirm. There may be one. Let me confirm before I say that. Okay.
Okay, if you could confirm that, because I think someone else had thought, but I think that might be a mix-up. But if it's with your state, then if it's with North Carolina, possibly, then I don't know about that. But what I'm thinking, Teresa, just like they did with the UBMS grants, that no new um, grants were initial proposals were initially funded. They're all possibly some of them. So basically, you could score perfect score as a new applicant and still not get funded because they ran out of money, basically. So or the funding ban. So they're on the second list. That and people that are banked. For example, that meaning that you had an extra year of funding because way back in the 80s and 90s, your proposal scored in the top 10%, and they would give people an extra year. Can you imagine how crazy, right? So those grants that projects that had a banked year from a long time ago, um, which I'm just explaining right now, where they used to give us an extra year of funding if you scored in the top 10%. Crazy, right? So that you kind of carried over, or you kind of used it, or, you had an extra year. So some grants that have that extra year of funding did not show up on the list that came out on Thursday as well. Um, so you got your readers' comments August, yeah, about a week afterwards, so about a week. And so the reason I bring up that no new grants were, I think, or very few were funded, then the cutoff would have been a perfect score of, well, actually above the cutoff. So Teresa, like CPPs, do you remember how many total, does anyone remember? I blocked it out, how many total points the CPPs were worth? Because I know the grant itself, the usual sections were worth 100 points. And then were the CPPs 6 points or 9 points? They were six. Why do I remember 6 points? Anyway, let's pretend they were worth up to 6 points. So a perfect score would have been for a newbie without any prior experience points, 100 plus 6, so 106, right? But it's a possibility that the cutoff was higher than 106, like 106.33 or 107 possibly. And so that's like, wait a minute, I scored a perfect score. I couldn't get funded if the cutoff was 106 point something. And so that's why the participants, I mean, the applicants that had prior experience points, even if you had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 points, that definitely helped keep you stay funded, because I think they were very critical, more critical than before. And I don't think we're going to have any perfect scores on our existing grants. But because people had these applicants had prior experience points, it offset it. So clients will be happy, but I'll be mad because we didn't get a perfect score. But I want to find out, right, Jessica, where did they take the points off so I can tell you all what to be on the lookout for, okay, to see what the trend is. So hopefully that it helped explain in a crazy way what the banked years are, okay? And there's some upward bounds and talent searches that are banked as well. So let's see before I go to the questions, and I was going to also share something. Don't let me forget to share the updated timeline, but let's look at the Q&A here. EOC beginning status classification question. If a student has received a credential but stopped out when they were seeking another credential, would you consider them a transfer or stop out? Please advise. All right, so a credential, you mean they have a high school diploma or a college? Are you talking about a college credential like a associate's degree or certificate? um, College. So if a student had received a credential but stopped out when they were seeking another, well, they were seeking, let's say they were going for a bachelor's degree, but they stopped out. I would consider this a stop out. Okay. Hopefully that helps, right? All right. So, how many programs or percentages do they usually hold out for the funding ban? It looks like there were almost 200 fewer SSS projects from the slate release Thursday. I know that banked programs will account for some, but it seems like they're holding back a lot so far. Somebody told me, this is pure speculation, but someone told me, I don't know if you heard this, Teresa, but someone told me that COE said, isn't this game of telephone? I heard someone said, I don't have it in writing, but somebody told me, more than one person told me that they were told by somebody, but it came through COE that they would be funding 100 new SSS projects. So maybe that accounts for the other, the banked ones plus the 100. And remember, there is less money, so they may not be able to fund as many total as before. But I remember hearing someone tell me there was a promise or a commitment to keep some aside for the new ones, meaning that they should be on the funding ban. They should not have been selected initially, but put on the funding band to see if they've reserved money to, saved money and put enough money aside to fund 100 new programs and including the banked programs. So but to answer your question, I've never heard or I've not been lucky enough to be, privy to that information as to what percentage. Okay. It's usually after the fact. They usually don't before, and so many things have changed with the budget, right? So even if they had said they had planned, I don't know if they stuck to that plan if they were able to. Can you elaborate on how many pages you would recommend for the talent search introduction in each section? Great question. Um, if the format stays the same, for talent search, I keep it no more than half a page of my introduction, and it's really called a target area description. I go straight into it because your abstract is more of your introduction. Okay. Um, but it's so important, and but you don't want to bog down the reader with pages and pages of description or introduction about your talent search grant. Start with a half-page description of what your target area is, what it consists of, counties, where is it located? Like I'm from the planet Mars, don't assume that I know that Los Angeles is in, Southern California, that part of it, and that it's an urban area. It more so if you're rural, give me a point of reference, has how far away you are to some major city that you would fly into, and the population and the breakdown, very briefly within the sentence, not a table of the demographics. But for talent search, no more than a half page. For EOC, probably a page, because I probably have to go into more detail about the economics, just briefly, because remember, you don't get any points for that description. You don't get any points, and a reader is looking to give you points. Where's the darn question? Where's the darn question? Don't give them 2 or 3 pages of an introduction, because anything you put in that introduction is not going to get scored. It does set up, put things into context, but really what you want to get across to the reader is this is my target area. It may consist of 3, 4, 24 sub areas, but from this point forward, we will refer to it as one target area. Then for all the other pages, obviously, my plan of operation tends to be, because it's the longest, I would say about 18 to 20 pages. I always remember that. I can't tell you how much right now for the other pages. Um, and it could be more refined now that I'm going through and updating things like that. But in the past, I just remember it's always between 18 and 20 pages. My needs section in the past has been about 12 pages. Um, so it doesn't match perfectly like, oh my gosh, the needs section is worth 24 pages. So that's got to be, second in the number of pages. Heck, sometimes my the plan of operation, sometimes the applicant and community support is like 8 pages. It all depends. So don't get focused on the page number right now. All I know is do not go into a lot of pages of introduction on either your EOC or your talent search proposals. You want to make sure you quickly for both EOC and talent search describe the target area and mention for talent search the names of the target schools that are located within that target area. And for EOC, that you go ahead and include more information and make it a page total to include more of the economic landscape there, but very short and brief. As to the other sections, I'm not sure yet, but I just told you how many in the past. But don't worry about those right now. Don't worry about page numbers right now. Okay, so someone said same thing. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions, comments here. If our project director is new but has related experience, should we address that directly? Well, I'm guessing you're saying in the quality of personnel, so to speak. Luckily, unless they change things, luckily, we don't want to talk about the director personally, whether they've been there a million years or they just got there. So, but you want to do is you don't want to write something that uh, might get somebody, it might include things that the current person doesn't have in place, right? So you could go so over the top that you realize, heck, I just wrote myself out of a job. Well, unless you want to get rid of someone, that's one way to do it. But what you want to make sure is, let's say you have a new director and you're looking at your old proposal, and it says the director needs to have, maybe it was written for the previous director to kind of, brag about how much years of experience, like maybe it says, oh, but see, you're never talking about the actual person, but maybe when you were talking about the required qualifications, maybe that turned into, oh, they must have 10 years of TRIO or SSS or similar experience working with low income first generation college students. And then 5 years of management experience. Okay, that was great for the previous director. They more than exceeded that. But in the meantime, you have a new director. So I would make sure that your new director, well, first of all, your new director had to have been approved by the department. And the department should have been looking at what is in the proposal to see the minimum requirements. So they're checking for that. So it should be that this new director has satisfied all the minimum requirements because they wouldn't have been approved anyway. So if this new director has additional experience in something that you haven't mentioned already, you may want to include that. But remember, whatever you put as required, then you have to hold to the next person that comes by. So you never have to tell the readers that you have a whole new director or even mention the name of the director. The focus of the quality of personnel for each one of those major positions, like the director and the advisors for sure, is to make sure you clearly state to the reader, these are the minimum required qualifications in the area of educational attainment, experience related to the objectives, and other related experience that you require for them to have. So you really should be looking at the job descriptions separate. Don't put a job description in the proposal in that section, but look at the current job description or make sure it's updated. And from looking at the job description, then kind of deconstruct it and come up with the required qualifications that you're looking at. Anybody, as though you were brand new and hiring, they should, whatever you require here should line up with what they're going to have to be doing. Okay, so that's where I use the job description to make sure I'm in alignment and that I don't accidentally write somebody out of a job or make it so rigorous that it's hard to hire a new director, or when the director leaves, another one will come. All right, so what's the best time to start meeting with, let's see here. Oh, potential target schools for talent search to ask about including them in the proposal. Well, first of all, the best time is after you've collected initial data, or you can go ahead and tell them this is what you want to do, but don't make any promises. It's a tough deal because you could go out and say, "Hey, I want to include you in our proposal. Isn't this great? Wouldn't you love to be a part of this?" And you get them all excited about it. And then when you pull the data, you realize they don't show a need, and then you have to come back and tell them, "Never mind. Sorry to get you all worked up and do all this work." So a couple of ways you could do this. If it's potential target schools, you should collect as much data on them that you can from any state or regional or district websites or some of the other websites we've mentioned in our that may be in the Google Drive as potential websites to try to pull information about the academic performance of that school, compare it to the district, state, or national rates. I would do that before you even start talking to them to see if you can show that they have academic need, besides having a lot of students that are on free and reduced lunch list. So that's right now. You should be, if before you go asking, make sure they actually have a chance and then still let them know, look, based on our preliminary assessment, we think there's a need. But with your assistance internally, with your advisors, counselors, faculty, and your records and your qualitative feedback and information, I think we can make a case. And then nothing's for sure. It could be that when we get to the last minute, you could tell them we feel that there's not enough need, and we may not be including you. But because y'all are in the target area, this is where you could kind of still win them over, have your cake and eat it too. You could tell them, look, it's come to the point where if we come to the point where we cannot include you as an official target school, because you're in the target area, we can still come out and meet with eligible students on campus. We just can't do it as often as we do at our official target schools, but you will receive some services. So that could, cushion the blow. But now what we collect the data now and then go in with that, disclaimer about it may or may not work. Or if you want to start talking to them now, or if you've already started talking to them, you may want to let them know, hey, based on the SSS competition, it's going to be real competitive. So you can blame it on that. And, we may not be able to include your school in the final list if there's not enough need. But since you're in the target area, we may be able to work something out. Okay. But now is the time. And I know they're all gone, but at least right now you can look up stuff yourself. A lot of this information you can get, or at least see if that school has any potential. A lot of people start looking at the data and find out that the school that they wanted to bring in is the school that's doing the best in the numbers. And unless something changes or is really wrong when they talk to people at the school, I'm telling them, no, you can't bring them on. They're not showing a need in all of the categories. They have to show a need across the board. Um, if they don't, they'll cost you a point. And if you have enough prior experience points, then you could probably survive losing a point. Okay. But if you don't have any prior experience points, or if you can account for other places in the proposal to take points off, I hate to turn in a proposal that I already know is going to possibly lose a point because it's not showing a need. But some directors like, I need to have them as official. They need to be listed for whatever reason. Okay, you're going to leave them in, but if it were me, I'd take points off anytime that school showed up and individually was showing that they were doing better than the state or national rate. So we're talking about possibly 4 or 5 points. Well, we got, 15 prior experience points. Okay, but I can't guarantee that you're not going to lose points anywhere else. So anyway, you need to, check that out and be okay with it. EOC, I'm looking at decreasing my service area from 5 counties to 4. Okay. And naturally, I want to retain my PE points. If this is supposed to be a new grant, how do the readers know when to eliminate the PE points or keep them in the scoring? Great question. I've always heard if you decrease the target area more than 50%, you will lose the PE points. Well, let me tell you something. The readers have nothing to do at all with your PE points. Okay, the readers only give you 100 points and they look at the CPPs. So they look at the CPPs, whatever that total score was. So they only look at that they have no idea what you've done or how you've done on your APR. That's done separately from the Department of Ed. from your program officer, whoever they've contracted to do that. All right. So you could have an awesome, awesome, perfect proposal, and then then it gets sent over for its PE points, like the toppings, right? The final layer, I want to put the final straw, is the topping of the PE points. So that's when they'll double check, just like double check your target schools for a talent search to see if you went from 8 schools to now you're talking about just 4 schools. And I'm like, wait a minute, they went down by 50%. And substantially, we were saying, and again, this is all hearsay, substantially the same as what the regulations state. So COE has said substantially the same, we're saying is 51% or higher. So if I had 8 target schools, the lowest I could have gone would have been down to 5. I should not have gone to 4 because 4 is 50%. From 8 to 5, that's more than 51%. So I shouldn't lose any points there. But that's what they do after the grant's been read. That's why it takes so long because the prior experience points have to be added onto it. Now for EOC, your program officer would be looking at your target area, and it's a little harder to do in EOC than it would be in talent search because we've got, target schools, 12 to 8, whatever like that. In EOC about the area, um, because you're going from 5 counties, you could say, to 4, and then see, you wouldn't tell the reader that. Your program officer would have to pick up on that. I don't know how they would pick up on that. But if they notice that you went from 5 to 4, it's still substantially the same because you didn't go from 5 counties to like 3 or 2 counties, right? You went from 5 to 4. So you shouldn't lose any points, but they don't come from the reader. The reader does not know what you were serving before. You're a brand new grant to the reader. They have nothing to go by unless you tell them, by the way, I'm going from 4 to 5. Don't tell them that. Okay. Just say my target area consists of the following 4 sub areas. From this point, we'll be looking at we'll refer to it as one target area. They'll not look at the population area. They might, I mean, not your reader, but your program officer may be, like I said, okay, they'll possibly look at your old, I guess I'm just thinking out loud, Teresa. I don't know how else they would know if they would look at your current target area description of how many counties. And I can't remember on the program profile form, Teresa, for EOC, if they spell out the addresses or the counties that you're at, because typically that's where they look when they're wanting to see how many target schools you're asking to serve compared to what it was before. So your program officer may do some sort of comparison, not the reader, and maybe not so much of the population, because the population can go up and down, but maybe they notice that here it's 5, now it's 4 areas, 4 sub areas compared to 5, or maybe the overall description is it in the same general description, you know. So I don't think in this specific case, that you would be in danger of losing any points. If you're concerned about it right now, you could, if you have any communication with your program officer, go ahead and ask them right now. They can refuse to answer, or they could say, no, that would be appropriate, but honestly, I don't know um, how they would really check on that. And I can't remember if the form, the program profile form, I believe, is in the Google Drive. I believe Donna or Lee, if you can check it out under federal forms, I believe we put a program profile form, an old one. You know where it is? I know for sure we put the 2021 application packet, and it's within the application packet. There's a PDF in the Google Drive, one for Talent Search, one for EOC. And you want to do a search and do a search for program profile form, and that's where you should see that pop up. Okay. So honestly, it's a little harder to do, but your reader has nothing to do with it. Okay. All right. All right. I know of one over here near us, they used to work with 3 counties, 4 counties, and they went down to, was it 5 counties? It was massive. And she said, I want to get down to 1. But I said, well, you probably won't be able to get down to 1 right away. But she worked her way every funding cycle where she finally reduced, and she finally got to 1, which was more than enough. It should have never had that many. But if you're concerned, you ask your program officer, or when they start doing the technical review workshops or technical application assistance workshops, make sure you ask that question directly of them. What about my EOC target area? I'm going from five sub areas to four. The reader would never know any difference. It's your program officer that might. And again, from five to four, not a big deal, but you can ask them ahead of time. So let's see if we have any other questions here. Can I put the link? The link, we can go to the, okay, well, we'll put the link to the Google Drive. So see, yeah, Leah already did that. So when you go to the Google Drive, you should see um, a folder that says Talent Search and EOC, and one of them has a program application. In fact, I don't see any questions right now. So Donna, do you mind sharing or going to the Google Drive? And we'll do an overview of that, and then I guess backtrack and share the PDFs of the timeline until we have some more questions. Any other questions, y'all?
Lisa, while we're waiting on that,
Mhm.
no, the new grant that I thought got funded, it did not get funded. So no, I'm not aware of any new programs that were actually any
Thank you.
programs that were funded.
Thanks for confirming that. There was some question on Facebook if there was another one in Pennsylvania, I think. And I think they might have, and the same thing thought that, oh, it was new, but I think they've determined that it was actually an existing one.
Yeah,
So thank you.
Carolina. Yep.
Thanks for that. All right, so if you go under the talent search folder, Donna, and I'm sorry to make you drive, but I didn't get a chance to get on here. And on here, you should see, I don't see program profile here, but if you go to the second thing listed, the RFP package, the instructions right there. And this is where on mine right now, if I were to share, it would say I got to log into Adobe. If you could search for profile, the word profile, it should take us to the form. Somewhere there's a search. I thought there would be. Oh, there it is. That little, yeah, that little magnifying glass is that search? Oh no, that's just Zoom. Let's see here. I forget what page it's on. Will not let it do a search. Or how about if you open in an Acrobat right there, and now do a search. Thank you. I'm sorry, Donna. She's gonna kill me. You can kill me later, okay? If you do profile, yeah. Let's see if profile picks it up. Okay, so it's page 73. So on page 73, and this looks very similar, and I should have pulled up the EOC one, but this is your program profile form, and this is what you should dig out for your 2021. And the main thing is on the next page where it talks about the listing of the target schools coming up. See right here, this is what they hold against you. Okay, this is what I would compare. And just for Kickstarter, let's look at the EOC one um, to see on their program profile form, the same thing. And again, any questions there? This is all in the Google Drive. It's under the EOC folder, under that first one there. And program profile might be under the same page. You never know. Close by, let me see. And we'll see how they program profile form. And of course they 75. So we'll look at 75, see how the breakdown is there. So this is what that program profile form is so important. It's scary, but it doesn't matter what objectives or what target schools you listed in the proposal. The readers see that. Your program officer in DC is obsessed with this program profile form. So there have been cases where sometimes somebody changed the objective. They should match, right? The percentages that you set in the target schools listed, there are numbers to serve. There has been a time where sometimes somebody has made a tweak or changed something and they didn't update it in either one, but they go by this one. So let's look at the 76 where they talk about, do they even have anything about the project must be accessible? See, I don't see anywhere here where they can Look at that. So it looks possibly that they'll look at your abstract or your introduction, but I for EOC should not be more than one page. Well, they look at say all applicants must indicate the address where this project will be physically located. I don't see anything, any other thing there. I'll check it out and find out, but I'm assuming that if it was me, I'd look at that and I'd compare your target areas to make sure you totally didn't go off
The
and
question
work on another area.
did ask how many,
Oh, where does it ask?
right where you were reading a minute ago. Go down some more. Right here. Multiple applications. Oh, applications. My bad.
Yeah, yeah. If you've turned in more than one.
I'm sorry.
God forbid if you're turning in more than one EOC, right? I can't imagine just one, right? But multiple ones, that's crazy. So, okay, great. Thank you, Donna, for looking that up. It's good to know. It reminds me as well. So this is all good. This is stuff that I needed to rehash too. When you get a chance, y'all, when we check these out, I'm going to upload a couple of new things, revisions that we made, and make sure, just a reminder about the new GEPA. If you want to learn about that, there's information about the new GEPA. There's some sample MOUs and letters of commitment as well. Then we also uploaded from the compliance review that we were part of some key terms, phrases, and activities to monitor. There's also some grant writing tips and some Gear Up had some words to review too that were very interesting that we had to go ahead and do and take out of the whole proposal because they were still they opened up the competition again. Um, so we had to go ahead and submit it again. Y'all's proposals had already been read, so they didn't want that to happen. Teresa, I speculate that possibly one of both or one of the CPPs maybe will have to be rewritten, and maybe they'll make funded proposals, tweak their proposals. I don't know. I don't know if you've heard anything about that yet.
Some information I had gotten is that they may request, instead of sending it back and having resubmission, that they may potentially just ask the grantees to resubmit some elements that may not be aligned with the executive orders.
Right, which probably quality of personnel would probably be my hit list, and maybe one of the CPPs. But you know what? We'll find out, and then that really will tell us what we need to be careful of in the Talent Search or EOC proposals. We also have, an overview of the executive orders and ED clarification. So we have some resources there. We have a couple of timelines we want to share with you. I'll be uploading this later. So, Donna, it doesn't matter which one you have handy. So right now you have the older version, but after this meeting later this afternoon, I will update the timeline. It's the same timeline, but we put in different dates. So she's going to go through that. And I think we have a couple more questions while you're doing that. I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions. Oh, here we are. So here's a timeline for EOC. We had it initially based on what we dealt with for um, SSS. We always, you know, uh, focus our timing on that. So we had this thing due in July initially, right? Crazy, right? And look how it's changed. Now we've modified it. We've been working, but just in case some of y'all are starting, there's certain things you want to do in July, August, September, October, November, December, January, assuming that this is going to follow just like it's always has been to be due in February of 20, February of every competition year, in this case, February 2026. That could change. That's why it's got tentative across it. It's the same task. We just shifted things to start in July, even though we've been doing it a lot earlier than that. Just don't want to let you know we started in July, but there's still time to start up on this. The information here to switch over, and in fact, we'll tweak it a little bit more before we put it up there. But just letting you know that we're working on it, and that we'll have one for EOC and one for Talent Search as well, ready to go. Okay. So yeah, thank you, Donna. I see a couple of things that I want to tweak. So I'm glad we didn't post it yet because I want to make it there's a couple of things I wanted to change there. Okay. But just to get the dates, we'll revise some things to make it start in July. All right. So we have a couple of questions here. Can you please show us how to get to the groups on your site? Okay, we'll do that in just a second. And we can put the link I believe, I don't know if we have a video for that, Donna, or we just have a link, but I may have you talk them through that here in a second since you have the website up. But before that, we'll get to that. What is the current expected timeline for RFPs for both new to Talent Search and EOC? Apologies. No apologies needed. Again, that timeline, based on that timeline and what I've heard from COE, specifically from Maureen Hoyler, is that the anticipated due date would be February of 2026, either for EOC or Talent Search, and usually Talent Search goes first, and possibly March for EOC of 2026. But please do not, um, that's all speculation. Nothing's in writing at all. That's where I heard it from. She's usually right on the money, but I wouldn't be shocked if it comes out. I mean, I don't know how it could happen, but I don't know how many times I've said that already. But it could come out to be, the RFP could come out in September with 30 days for you to turn it in. Could be, could be. I don't think so. I don't think so, but I just don't want you to be chillax, completely, and say, okay, we got plenty of time. All right. But that's what I think, and that's what the timeline will be set up for. All right. So, any idea what the CPPs might be? Teresa, what do you think? My CPP competitive preference priority expert, what is your anticipation? Or what's your guess?
Right now, it's a little bit hard, just because, the latest information we received was when we did the rewrite or resubmission of Gear Up, which was about a week or so ago, and they totally removed the CPPs. The CPP, the ones we talked about. Oh, it's been about 3 weeks since I was on this call. Um,
Mhm.
let me take a look, and
Okay.
those
No
three.
problem, Teresa.
Like School
Eh,
of Choice, and I mean, there were really some that were a little difficult. The three that they do have, in general, as far as preference areas, one of them was related to literacy. So this is Talent Search. So as of right now, based on the three standard ones, usually there's about eight of them that the U.S. Department of Ed is able to choose from. That's based on the administration's guidance. Um, Maybe AI. These are really far-fetched, but I'll have more information next week. I'll do more research to kind of see what their what other competitions are actually putting out with regards to CPPs to see what's happening there. So, yeah.
And the bottom line is, I think we also posted, I forget what day it was. We posted about what the three that they were talking about. I can't even find it now.
Also, one of the invitational priority um, was either it was a CPP. One of the grant competitions I saw, it was rural counties. Um, there was a 10-point CPP there. So they're not even aligned with the three that we normally look at to help us determine which ones might be the ones that the Department of Ed may potentially provide. Another CPP they had it was an invitational priority for a program, whether or not a program already exists or not. I do know that the department is very interested in funding new programs. And so there was also a recent grant that I submitted where you got extra points for being in a not being an existing program, something of that sort. So again, I will do more research on this and I'll have better answers next week.
And again, we're so far ahead. I mean, y'all, it's good to kind of want to have that conversation about the CPPs because they haven't been finalized, if anything. And Donna, thank you. She found the blog posting we did a couple of weeks ago regarding what the possible implications of the proposed 2020 supplemental priorities on Trio could be. So you want to check that out. Um, but right now, I mean, it's kind of like put on the back burner because we need to focus on the narrative. And then what I always do last, after I get the narrative done, then I try to see where I can, once I finally get official notification, which you won't have until the RFP comes out as to what the CPPs will be that they want you to write to on both Talent Search and EOC. um, that's when I start trying to make it, modify certain things. I don't wait or I don't write thinking, oh no, what would the CPP be? No, I write to get my 100 points. And then I go back and modify certain parts to make sure they connect and address the separate CPPs if necessary. Okay. So we'll have webinars about that, specifically talking about that. And then someone says, will you send an email about the revisions when they are updated? Well, we'll post or being part of the group. That's where we'll put something out. Definitely for our clients who are proposal writing workshop clients as well. We'll be talking to them within the group, but then we'll also uh, when we get this information, I'll share it with you during these weekly meetings. What we found out for the competition, um, specifics and details, and the spreadsheet that shows all the points that were taken off. We'll probably have to reserve those for our clients, so hopefully you can join us in the group there. Um, to do that, but also that's the best way to get information. And then I may post something about, hey, if you check out the latest and greatest information in the Talent Search and EOC Grant Writer workshop, the competition group, or get some of the highlights during our weekly lunch and learn meetings. Okay. And then Donna, if you want to share or kind of go over how folks can join groups, I don't know if, oh, you did put something in there. You put in the link. Okay, there you go. So Donna says, hey, contact her directly and she'll get you hooked up. And possibly, Donna, you can actually, could you do it for them if they give you their email address and stuff like that? Could that happen? Or is there stuff that they have?
Yeah, yes.
Nice.
It's really simple.
Okay. So hopefully, and I thought we had a video too about it or something, but we'll got
I
it.
think we do.
Okay. We'll
I think it's
find
on
it.
here.
We can post it. And if not, we can post it there in the Google Drive. Okay, great. Any questions? Let me see. So check that out or email Donna, I would be emailing her, but I don't want, you to get 40 emails, but you know what I mean? I'd be like, some people are like, let me figure it out. Give me the link and let me figure it out. Like right now, if you guys want to click that link and try to figure it out, and if you run into anything right now, let us know. We've got about 10 minutes left. Any other questions, y'all? Comments, questions, anything about Town Search or EOC regulations, anything about the budget? As you all prepare your budget for the next your final year of funding, I know you're probably going to have some carryover, but you should be preparing your budget for the first year of the grant to base it off of whatever you're going to get this upcoming year, which is level funding at best, level funding. So whatever you're getting right now, today, minus carryover for the number of students that you have to serve both EOC or talent search, is the amount that you should set your first year grant budget on without any carryover. So that's going to be interesting, right? It's going to look very different from your budget that you're going to turn in for your last year of funding because you probably have some carryover. Does Nosotros offer a one-on-one option for grant writing? Yes, we do. We actually do. We have our proposal development is where we work with the client through the whole process. And then we have a technical review that most of our continuing our prior customers, from that we got funded in the past, most of them do a technical review. But yes, we do, and we'll give you the link. You can go to our shop or go to our website, and you could look for proposal development services, and there's a link, or you can email us directly, and we can do that. We're still taking, thank you there, thank you, Donna. There, we're still taking clients. We will max out at a certain time, and then I'll have to, say put people. I don't want to sound crazy here, but on a waiting list, believe it or not. Um, but we have to do that, otherwise we get too much, where we can't provide the individual assistance that each client needs. So we do have to put a cap on it. But then we do have, sometimes we refer folks to other grant writers who are still seeking contracts. But now is the time to solidify it, because we will reach a point where we have to say, yeah, no mas, we can't take any more. We had a great team last year and we did over 51 SSS proposals, but they didn't tell me how many They just kept they kept asking me, how do you I would look at the spreadsheet, but I never even wanted to count on purpose until someone spilled the beans at the last minute and told me, oh, we were working on this many. I was like, "Ah, did they not tell you? You're not supposed to tell me how many total." I mean, I could just see and get a sense of where I need to cut it off. But anyway, but in addition to that, if you're in a situation where the college has said, look, and of course, all the payment for the technical review and the proposal development have to come out of non-federal funds. They can't come from the grant, of course. They have to come from institutional or agency funds. If there's no way, then I urge you somehow, if your agency or a college could pay for the for y'all to attend the grant writing workshop that we have, um, which is a course now. It's live. I mean it's recorded, and of course we'll have to do a live one once the final RFP comes out. But in the meantime, I think it's a really good investment. For the whole group, it's $1,500. Anybody from your institution has unlimited use to access those recordings. If you're individual, it's $500. And the great thing about it is once you pay once, and no matter how many times we go in there and update it and make things better or more relevant or more appropriate, the more that you don't have to keep paying for that. You see what I'm saying? So when you don't have to wait like, well, I'll attend one that's when the RFP comes out. No, because you attend it now, pay for it now, and it allows you access to all the updated versions, including when the RFP comes out. So you don't have to pay again over and over and over again. Okay. Purposely did that so that you get started right now. So that's another great option if you have the time. If you can't, come up with a whole amount, or if you're limited on funds, please think about doing that. There's more information there. Would I need to get a quote first, then can purchase the service? I don't know. That's up to your institution. Usually we have a contract, but if you're interested in the services, you can always email or go to that website, and it's got a place where you can schedule a time to meet with me, and I can tell you all the details. And then you tell me what your institution needs, a quote or a contract. It depends on the institution. Okay. So let's see if we have another question here. Can individuals pay for it out of pocket? I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, I'd hate for you to have to do that, but I know that I've had to in the past pay for things out of pocket. There's some question whether or not personally you can get reimbursed as a out of business, as a business expense that was required for your job. I don't know that the new tax things may not do that anymore, but back in the past, I'd hate for you to have to do that. But if they're not going to move on it, then yes. I mean, we don't, wherever the money, as long as it's not federally funded, we don't mind where it comes from, right? Indirect costs. How do TRIO programs ask for some indirect funds to be put aside for other items? So I guess you mean above and beyond, you know how your agency or your institution, right now they can take between 8 and then possibly some get 10% indirect costs, meaning of every dollar you spend, except for anything that is participant support cost, they will get 10% or 8%. It depends. Most are 8%. Your institution or agency could ask to increase that percentage. They have to submit a whole nother proposal to the Department of Health and Human Services to show why they need more indirect. And I know that for a fact because my agency, when I left, Teresa, they bumped it up to like from 8%. I think it's something like 20%. I maybe, but they get 20% of the grant and they were able to justify it. Good for them, but that means less for the grant, right? So, um, your question was how do we go ahead and try to get more of that indirect given, like less for the college to take and give more back to you? That's going to be a super hard sell because let me tell you, the facts are that it costs your agency or your institution more than 8% to host y'all. Okay, because out of their 8% they're supposed that they get, and not off of everything, it's everything except participant support costs and rental fees, but mostly participant support costs. So it's not the full deal, it's the full deal minus participant support costs, which include student travel. They get to keep 8% of everything that's spent out. So when you don't spend your money, they can't take 8% off the whole thing. They only take percent of what you've spent. So if you've got 50,000 in carryover, they may not get 8% of that 50,000 until you spend it. But here's the deal. It costs them a lot more money to host you because they have to pay for payroll, electricity, all this other stuff. So going to them and trying to state a case to get some of that indirect back is going to be a real tough sell, especially now, because you may risk the chance of them saying, you know what? Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because we were going to tell you that we couldn't host this program anymore because it costs us too much. We can't afford it. So I don't know about getting that. I don't think um, that's going to happen. And I'm almost afraid to broach the to bring up the conversation. I don't know, Teresa, if you have anything to add to that in your experience as a director, where you've known if you've seen the other side of how much it costs the college to host some of these trio programs. It's more than the 8%.
Yeah, it's definitely more than the 8%. The institution that I was at, I actually did get a percentage back, but that had been in place for many, many, many years, previous administration. And it was let me see, the PI. It was related to the PI, and it was an incentive for us to write grants. So we got a percentage back as the PI of the overhead, the 8%. We got 15% out of the 8%. But I don't know about now. It may be difficult unless they are a diehard trio supporter. I know the program where they said that they would fund their SSS program for another year through the institution. But of course, that's going to be an institution that has the funding to do so, and a lot of institutions just do not have it. But that was within the last 3 months, there was an institution where the president said that they were going to fund their SSS program if for whatever reason it wasn't funded. But outside of that, I don't know about the climate. And again, I would fear that they may go in a different direction if you ask them to give you the overhead back. So
Exactly. Right now is where I would not, right, be asking them for that, correct? It's just I'm nervous about asking that. So yeah, right? It costs them a lot. It costs them more. So, and if you do your budget, I'm just being uh, for reals. If when you do your budget, you should actually do it for 5 years so you can plan the increase in salary for each year that probably your institution requires, and then insurance is going to go up. So you're going to come to a situation if you don't have any gaps in personnel or anything like that, where you could possibly, run out of money on paper, and that's when you'll have to ask them to help you, the institution or agency. And here they're like, well, what more can we give you? We've given you, part of that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be a super hard sell, and I don't. Um, I honestly, I wouldn't bank on it. I wouldn't bank on it. Not sure if this question was answered. We're about to wrap up. Would you know if it's highly likely that the EOC competition will open up next month? I had heard from a fellow director that it won't open up until next year. I don't think it's going to open up next month. Um, like I said, I'm thinking more realistically when it's all said and done, possibly February or March of 2026, but I could be wrong. The minute I hear something else, I'll be out there posting a blog post or I tell you, hey, guess what I heard? So this will keep changing. But that's what I'm planning on right now. And those timelines that we're going to update and get uploaded later today will also anticipate that sort of timing. Okay. In fact, I'll make Talent Search and EOC the same to end in January just to give some extra cush time, extra spacing, and don't take it to the very end. Okay. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Teresa. Appreciate Donna. I put you on the put you to work today more than ever during one of these things. Click here, click there. And
That's
Leah,
okay.
I know, right? She's gonna get me later. Thank you all so much. And Donna, if you could stay on for a while after we leave. And this recording will
Okay.
be available in the our YouTube channel, as with all our recordings. Thank you all so much. We'll get you everything I hear, I will get out to y'all as soon as possible, okay? Thank you all so much.